Dr. Tom Sciarello stood at the podium in Union Square, the press lights burning against his eyes like interrogation lamps. Hundreds of faces blurred together before him. Citizens, reporters, P-Sect officers. Yet all he could see was the empty space where Katie should have been. He cleared his throat, fingers trembling around the edge of the lectern. Across the square, Neumann and Cortez were hauling a group of unruly miners into custody, their raised voices echoing off the concrete walls. Cortez's expression was tight, exhausted, the kind of look that lingered long after a shift ended. But for now, all the attention was on Tom. "Katie saved my life," he said, each word scraping out of him like a confession. "Her call to peace sect. It should have been me. If I could trade places, God, I would." His voice cracked, and then the world shifted. Katie stood at the edge of the podium, her outline glowing faintly against the harsh lights, her eyes soft and sorrowful, focused only on him. "Tom," she whispered, her voice cutting through the crowd's murmur, even though no one else reacted. "You still have work to do. You have to stop them." "Them?" The words sank into him like a blade. His breath caught in his throat. The crowd watched only a grieving doctor crumbling mid-speech. But Tom saw the ghost of a woman trying to save him one last time. His knees buckled, and P-Sect officers rushed to his side, guiding him away as cameras flashed and chatter erupted. Tom didn't hear any of it. He heard only Katie's warning. Later that morning, Sergeant Neumann found himself climbing the dim stairwell of row 7A, the metallic steps ringing beneath his boots. He stopped outside apartment 35 and knocked gently, aware of how frayed his partner had been lately. The door cracked open. Vera Cortez stood there, hair tangled, eyes shadowed by 3 nights of lost sleep. The apartment behind her was dark, curtains pulled tight, the faint scent of sedatives lingering in the air. She's been late to 3 consecutive shifts, and Neumann knew it wasn't laziness. The insomnia had sunk its claws into her, the same kind of restless poison they'd seen in dozens of miners before hauling them into cells. "Morning," Neumann said, forcing a casual tone. "You look like you wrestled a drill rig and lost." She didn't even attempt to smile. She stepped back, letting him inside. The place was a mess. Clothes half-folded, dishes stacked by the sink, a half-empty bottle of pills sitting on the table like an accusation. Neumann picked it up, turning it between his fingers. "These aren't doing much, huh?" he asked. "Sometimes," she muttered. "Most times, no." He set the bottle down, studying her. "Vera, this isn't just stress, you know that." She stiffened. Neumann tried to lighten the moment. Tried the same stupid humor he always used when things got heavy. "Didn't think your fate allowed you to rely on chemical help," he teased. Her eyes snapped up, and the look she gave him could cut steel. "Get out." "Come on, Cortez, I said get out." The anger in her voice wasn't loud, but it carried more weight than any shout. Neumann hesitated, hands raised in surrender, but the message was clear. He stepped back into the hallway, the door slamming shut behind him, with a finality that echoed down the row. Hanford Cartisia leaned toward his monitor as a video feed flickered to life. Deacon Abbott appeared on screen, flushed, breathing hard, as though he sprinted straight from the dig site. "Mr. Abbott," Cartisia began, his tone clipped and rehearsed. "Your little excursion this morning was unauthorized. You had no clearance to approach the artifact." "The marker," Abbott corrected sharply. Cartesia's jaw tightened. "Its classification is still yet to be determined. Until then, it is a major archaeological find and a restricted zone. If you go near it again, you will be deported back to Earth. Is that clear?" Abbott stared at him in disbelief. "You're a unitologist same as me, and you're blocking us from practicing our faith? That thing down there is holy. I'm not asking you to stop believing," Cartisia cut in, calm but stern. I'm asking you to stay away from that marker. Abbott froze, a slow, cold smile curving across his face. From that marker, huh? I knew it. Before the implication could settle, Cartisia severed the connection, the screen going dark. A soft chime sounded. Someone requested entry. Dr. Tom Sciarello stepped inside, looking pale and exhausted, as though the morning's breakdown still clung to him like a shadow. Cartisia straightened his uniform, bracing himself. "Hanford," Sciarello said, voice tight. "We need to talk about the insomnia outbreak. It's spreading. The miners, the officers. Your cortex can barely function. This has to become our top priority." Cartisia folded his hands. "I'm aware of the situation." "No," Sciarello pressed. "You don't understand. This started the day the marker was uncovered. I need to access it. I need to examine it myself." "Out of the question," Cartisia replied sharply. "You're a medical doctor, not a xenologist, and the artifact is off limits, completely." Sciarello clutched his jaw. "Hanford, that will be all, Doctor." He turned slightly, signaling the conversation was finished. But as Sciarello moved towards the door, Cartisia added, almost too casually, "One more thing. Where's Katie's body?" Sciarello stopped. "In the morgue, why?" Cartisia hesitated just long enough to unsettle him. "No reason," he said. "You may go." The door hissed shut behind the doctor, leaving Cartisia alone in the dim glow of his monitor. At dig site GL426, the wind whistled through the exposed scaffolding as Natalia, the Shanov, stood at the edge of the pit. No matter how many times she saw it, the thing stole her breath. Its black surface pulsed faintly beneath the floodlights, symbols shifting like something alive. "Every time," she murmured. Jerry, crouched beside a scanner, glanced up at her with a crooked grin. "You say that every morning." "And every morning," she replied. "I mean it." Before Jerry could comment, footsteps crunched across the gravel. A small crowd approached, unitologists mostly, their eyes bright with fervor. At the front was Deacon Abbott, moving with a confident stride that set Natalia instantly on edge. "Natalia," Abbott greeted, voice overly warm. "We'd like to get closer today." She forced a polite smile. "I'm sorry, Deacon, but the cordon is in place for a reason. You know that." He stepped closer, lowering his voice as though sharing a sacred secret. "I had a vision," he said, eyes shining with conviction. "Last night, the marker spoke to me. This proves it's the real deal." Natalia exchanged a quick look with Jerry. She heard plenty of strange minor talk these past weeks, but this was different. Abbott wasn't rambling. He was certain. Still, she kept her voice gentle. "I understand what this means to you, truly, but we have procedures." "Then please," Abbott said, hands spread in a gesture of peace. "Just let us in. We won't interfere. We only want to be near it." Natalia hesitated. His request was polite, respectful even, and something in his expression made it hard to shut him down. "Deacon, all right, but only if Jerry approves." Jerry stood, dusting off his gloves. His expression hardened immediately. "Absolutely not." Abbott's pleasant facade twitched. "You were personally singled out by Cartisia," Jerry continued. "If he sees you anywhere near the marker, we all get burned. I'm not risking our jobs for this." For a moment, Abbott said nothing. Then he exhaled, long and slow, his features smoothing back into serenity. "Very well," he said, nodding. "We'll stay behind the security line and pray." He turned to his followers, motioning them back. The group obeyed without question, settling just behind the cordon, heads bowed in silent reverence. Natalia watched them for a moment, unease crawling up her spine. Jerry leaned towards her, voice low. "This is getting out of hand." She didn't disagree. The transfer hummed softly as it sped across a dirt route towards GL 426. Inside, Dr. Tom Sciarello sat beside Sergeant Neumann, the dig site growing larger on the horizon like a scar in the landscape. Sciarello exhaled, tension bleeding from his shoulders. "Thank you, Sergeant. Really, I appreciate you coming with me." Neumann kept his eyes on the road, one hand drumming the steering wheel. "Don't thank me yet. I've got my own questions about that rock." Sciarello managed a half smile. Glad to hear someone not call it a marker. Neumann snorted under his breath. "Unitology? Whole thing gives me the hives. Fan club built around a hunk of metal nobody understands." The doctor looked out the side window, the churned earth whipping by. "Speaking of which, how's Vera?" A muscle in Newman's jaw twitched. He slowed the transport slightly as he considered his words. "Same as the others. Insomnia, restless, snapping at the shadows. We had a falling out." Aurelio frowned. "Because of her fate?" "No." Neumann shook his head sharply. "Because she's an idiot." The words were harsh, but his tone carried more frustration than malice. Frustration that barely masked worry. Sciarello let the silence stretch, feeling the weight of the colony's unraveling settle heavier on them both. Up ahead, the dig site's floodlights flickered like distant lighting, illuminating the towering black shape in the pit. Sciarello and Neumann stepped out of the transport, the thrum of the engines fading beneath the low hum of generators. Floodlights bathed the dig site in harsh white beams, and at its center stood the massive obsidian monument. Neumann froze. "What in the..." he said. "That's it? That's the rock?" The marker loomed like a spine carved from the bones of a dead god, symbols twisting subtly across the surface as if shifting under the light. Even Neumann, skeptic to his core, looked rattled. Natalia intercepted them quickly. "That's close enough," she warned, hand raised. "No one approaches without clearance." Sciarello nodded and kept his distance, but Newman's attention snapped toward a familiar shape among Abbott's gathering worshippers. "Vera?" he muttered, disbelief splintering his voice. Detective Cortez stood with the unitologist, head bowed, lips moving in silent prayer. When she noticed him staring, she stepped forward, serene in the way that made Newman's stomach twist. "I thought you were sick," he said. "Brother Abbott said I should come here," she replied softly. "And he was right. I already feel better." Newman's eyes hardened. "You're kidding me, Vera. We talked about this." "No," she said. "You talked. You never listened." He stepped closer, jaw clenched. "I lost my wife to your fucked up cult. I'm losing my partner too." A nearby unitologist bristled. "Is there a problem here?" Cortez forced a thin smile. "No problem. My partner just hasn't seen the light yet." "Oh, I'll show you a light," Neumann shot back. "The commander's flashlight when he fires you for being out here, Vera. Let's go, now." That was when one of the miners stepped up, putting himself between them. "Leave her alone." Newman's temper snapped. "I'm P-sect," he barked. "You're coming back to the colony for a psych eval, right now." A hand landed on his shoulder. "Deacon Abbott." "That's enough, Sergeant," Abbott said, voice calm but firm. "You will not interfere with her spiritual awakening." Neumann spun around. "You again? You and your visions and your marker nonsense." Abbott didn't respond. He simply stared, unblinking. Neumann turned to Natalia and her security team. "Hey, a little help? Backup?" But Natalia's team stiffened, exchanging unreadable looks. "You're disturbing the prayer group," one of them said flatly. "You need to leave." Neumann blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard him," another miner groveled. "Get back in your vehicle. Go home." A ripple of hostility spread through the worshippers. They stepped forward, not violently, but with a communal certainty that made Newman's skin crawl. He opened his mouth to argue again, but Sciarello placed a hand on his arm. "Neumann, come on," the doctor said. "I'm finished with the scans." One of the security men nodded approvingly. "Sensible man, the doc. You should listen to him, Sergeant." The way he said it, cold, distant, almost rehearsed, sent a chill through Neumann. He stared at the group, stunned. "What the hell just happened?" he muttered as he followed Sciarello back to the transport. Sciarello didn't look back. "I don't know. but I'm not staying near that marker a second longer. The transport rumbled back towards the colony, its headlights cutting thin spears of light through the dust-heavy night. Inside, Sciarello sat hunched over his handheld scanner, staring at the readout as though willing it to reveal something. Anything. But the display remained stubbornly empty. Nothing, he muttered, shaking the device once more. I scanned for thermal variants, radiation signatures, magnetic flux. Hell, even anomalous bioelectronic fields. As far as science is concerned, it's just a rock. Neumann kept his eyes ahead, but his jaw tightened. That wasn't just a rock, Doc. Sciarello looked over, waiting. I worked with Cortez for 3 colonies, Neumann said. 3. His hands gripped the wheel, knuckles blanching. And she has never acted like that. Neither have the miners. I've seen angry, drunk, scared, desperate, but that? He shook his head. That wasn't her. That wasn't any of them. The doctor leaned back, rubbing his temples. He wanted to dispute it, wanted to lean on data, procedure, evidence, anything familiar. But the memory of the prayer group's cold stares lingered like frost on his spine. The way they had moved, spoken, as if something else were whispering through them. I don't want to deny science, Sciarello said finally, his voice trembling just slightly. God knows I built my entire life on it. Neumann side-eyed him. But, Sciarello swallowed. I agree with you. Something's wrong. And the timing is too perfect to be coincidence. The two sat in silence, thick with dread, the marker's silhouette fading behind them in the rear mirror. This can't go on, Sciarello whispered, more to him than anyone else. Neumann nodded grimly. Then we'll figure it out before someone else gets hurt. Cartisia paced behind his desk. The marker situation is already teetering on the edge, and now Dr. Sciarello, of all people, decided to ignore direct orders. A soft chime sounded. Cartisia stabbed the console with a finger, opening a video call. The grainy face of Carver, one of the dig site security supervisors, appeared on screen. He looked rattled. Cartisia, Carver began without preamble. I thought you should know. Sciarello showed up at the marker. He brought someone with him, a PSEC officer named Neumann. Cartesia's eyes narrowed. I know Sergeant Neumann. Yeah, well, he and the doctor were poking around, Carver continued, spying on Abbott's group, watching them pray, making the unitologist nervous. Cartesia's irritation sharpened into something colder. And? Carver shifted, glancing off-screen as though someone else were listening. Abbott and his miners didn't like it. They started crowding Neumann, threatening him really. If the doctor hadn't talked him down, there would have been a fight. Cartisia let out a slow breath, gripping the edge of his desk until his knuckles whitened. I will deal with Abbott and the miners. That's not all, Carver said, his voice dropping. Some of the guards, they were getting aggressive too, like they were siding with Abbott, pushing Neumann to leave. Cartisia paused, something uneasy flickering across his face. His guards were trained, disciplined. They weren't supposed to side with anyone. He forced his voice steady. Leave it to me, Carver. Carver nodded quickly, relieved to hand the problem off. The screen went dark, but Cartisia remained frozen, staring at his reflection in the now black monitor, haunted by the sinking realization that control of the colony might already be slipping through his fingers. Back at PSEC headquarters, the hum of the old monitors and the chatter of the incoming reports created a restless background buzz. Marla Jansen leaned back in her chair, one boot hooked around the leg of a console, her eyes fixed on the small, unauthorized vidlog looping in front of her. As Neumann approached, she paused the footage and glanced up. You're gonna want to see this, she said, tapping the display. The vidlog flickered to life. The marker filled the screen. But this time, its symbols gloomed with a faint, rhythmic pulse. Some bright as embers, others shifting like liquid metal. Marla pointed. Look at the markings. They're repeating, not randomly either. It's like a structured pattern, some kind of code or language. Her voice was barely above a whisper. And these curves, these alignment points, they remind me of advanced mathematics, like something built on principles we haven't even discovered yet. Neumann let out a short, incredulous laugh. Come on, Marla. Unitologists have been trying to decode the first marker for centuries. They've thrown prophets, scholars, and supercomputers at it. No one's cracked a damn thing. She didn't smile. Her eyes stayed locked on the glowing symbols, reflections dancing across her face. Maybe, she said quietly. The vidlog flickered again, the pulse of the marker seeming, just for a moment, to sync with the rhythm of the room. Neumann shifted uncomfortably, wishing he hadn't looked quite so closely. Who made that vidlog? Cartisia asked. Carver swallowed. We're still checking, sir. Could have been one of the techs, maybe someone on Natalia's team? Hard to say, but it's circulating. Cartesia's lips pressed into a thin line. Unauthorized footage of the marker was the last thing the colony needed. Fuel for hysteria, or worse, for Unitologist obsession. I want you and your men to head to the dig site, he ordered. Relieve Natalia's team of duty. Carver blinked. Relieve them? And arrest them if they refuse. Cartisia cut in sharply. All of them. The guard hesitated. That might get messy. Cartisia leaned forward, eyes cold. Then make it clean. Carver nodded stiffly, but the uncertainty remained in his posture. Should we alert PSEC? Just in case. No, Cartisia snapped. Do not call PSEC. They're not devout. To interfere, question, slow us down. His gaze darkened. This needs to be handled by the people who understand the importance of what we're dealing with. Carver straightened, observing the command like a soldier receiving a battlefield order. Understood. Good, Cartisia said, voice slipping back into the calm that felt more ominous than anger. Now go, and Carver, no one else sees that vidlog. Carver and his security team arrived at the dig site just as the winds picked up. Dust swirling across the floodlit pit. Natalia and her crew were cataloging readings when Carver marched forward, visor down, hand already resting near his holster. Natalia Deshanov, he said, voice amplified and cold. You and your entire team are relieved of duty by the order of Manager Cartisia. You're all placed under arrest. Jerry stepped forward, stunned. Arrest? For what? Carver's gaze didn't waver. Unauthorized vidlog of the marker. Cartisia believes it originated from someone on your team. Natalia blinked, disbelief twisting into anger. That's insane, none of us. You're to surrender your tools and step away from the artifact, Carver said firmly. Now. Natalia stared at him. Something icy and distant slid behind her eyes. Then she moved. In one fluid motion, she drew her line cutter and fired. The blade of the energy slicing clean through the nearest guard's helmet. The man collapsed instantly. Carver's entire squad jerked back, weapons raising. Safeties clicking off in unison. Hold fire! Jerry shouted, stalling between them and Natalia. Nat, what the hell are you doing? Natalia's chest heaved. The glow of the marker reflected in her widening pupils. I won't let them hurt it, she whispered. If they kill me, I'll see him again. Jerry reached toward her slowly. Nat, look at me. Just look at me, okay? You're scaring the hell out of everyone. Put the cutter down. For a moment, something softened. The line cutter dipped. That's it, Jerry murmured, stepping closer. You're okay. We'll figure this out. Just give me the... One of Carver's men slammed the butt of his rifle into the back of Natalia's skull. Her eyes rolled upward, and she collapsed to the dirt, unconscious. Jerry lunged toward her. What the hell is wrong with you? The guard stood over her, breathing hard. Orders, he snapped. Behind them, the marker loomed like a silent witness, its symbols pulsing faintly, almost rhythmical, against the rising tension in the air. Neumann stood beside Commander James in the hollow conference room, both men illuminated by the pale glow of the display. On the other end of the connection, Cartisia sat behind his desk, looking more irritated than worried, as though the crisis consuming the colony were merely a logistical inconvenience. Cartisia, the commander said, we are urging a full evacuation. Whatever is happening, insomnia, aggression, psychological breaks, is spreading fast. Neumann leaned forward. We're past warnings. People are losing control. We need to get them out before someone gets killed. Cartisia scoffed lightly. Evacuation is unacceptable. Do you have any idea how much this mining operation has cost? Several $billion. 3 weeks before planet crack and you want me to shutter everything because a few miners can't sleep? Newman's fist clenched. A few. Sir, one of your guards was just murdered at the dig site. People are losing their minds. And that, Cartisia said coolly, is why we must stay the course. In 4 days, the artifact will be lifted into the colony for transport. Once the USG Ishimura arrives, the marker will be transferred and all this will be behind us. For a moment, Neumann didn't breathe. You're bringing it into the colony? You can't be serious. I've made my decision, Cartisia snapped. Good day, gentlemen. A hollow screen blinked out. Neumann stared at the empty space where Cartisia had been. Fear and disbelief fighting for control. What now, Commander? James took a slow breath. The weight of the colony's fate settling on his shoulders. We brace ourselves. He walked away, already calling for an updated security protocol. Neumann stayed frozen a moment longer, jaw tight, dread twisting in his gut. Meanwhile, in the manager's office, Cartisia stood from his chair and stepped into the outer room. His secretary, Alice, looked up at him, startled by his abrupt appearance. Get me Captain Matthias, Cartisia ordered. Alice nodded, already reaching for her comm panel. Whatever Cartisia planned next, it was clear he no longer intended to rely on PSEC to make it happen.